All right, my friends and gems, and we are live here on Love and Money Secrets TV. Gonna just adjust this a little bit here so that we're not so far down. And so tonight we are going to start with chapter 4 of the Mitochondriac Manifesto. And that is a reminder to make sure we get started. And so we're going to start with the eye is much more than a camera. If you have your books, make sure that you follow along. Ask any questions that you might have when we stop for break. We're going to be going for about 30 minutes. So what runs our biological programming is what it says here at the top of page 35, right here. So the eye is much more than a camera. And I'm going to make sure that my microphone is close so that you guys can hear me really well. So we all know that the eye is a camera through which we see the world around us, but it has another job that's at least as important, if not more. The eye's function we were never told about is it senses which individual frequencies of light are in the mixture of full spectrum sunlight we see, and it uses that information to regulate almost every biological program and process inside us, including energy production, stress level, sleep cycles, digestion, and repair processes. That's right. The eye is designed, in fact, to number one, decipher exactly how much of each wavelength of the electromagnetic spectrum is present in sunlight, including invisible frequencies, ultraviolet and infrared. Number two, tell the brain what time of day it is based on the presence or absence of colors in sunlight. I'm going to pause real quick here. Are you aware that there are different colors of sunlight being emitted, even though when we look at the sun, by and large, the sun looks orangey colored to us and kind of clear white in the middle, right? But actually, there's a different light spectrum from early morning all the way until sunset. And so if you look up the different hertz frequencies of sunlight, you start off with about 200 hertz right after sunrise. And it goes from 200 hertz to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1,000 hertz till noon. And then you end at the end of the day from a blue to a more of a red light spectrum throughout the course of the day. And your eye is using and interpreting those light frequencies to regulate the different circadian rhythms throughout your entire body. So it's detecting the presence or the absence of colors in sunlight. And then number three, regulate daily and seasonal cycles, growth, metabolism, and regeneration accordingly. And fundamentally important to mitochondriacs, the eye controls these biological programs photoelectrically. Photo, in other words, meaning light electrically. That means photoreceptors, light-sensitive biochemicals in the eye, collect light and turn the mixture of frequencies into electrical signals that the brain understands to be a certain time of day at a certain time of year. For instance, one blend of light frequencies after it's deciphered tells the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN, in the brain it's high noon. In the middle of summer, biological programming built into the brain then makes the necessary adjustments to sleep and wake cycles, weight loss, weight gain, detoxification, and more. So peculiar as it may seem, the programming that runs daily and seasonal cycles, they all start with the eye. And it gets converted into electrical impulses that run the body. So I repeat. So as peculiar as it may seem, the programming that runs daily and seasonal cycles all start in the eye. And that gets converted into electrical impulses that run the body, the entire body. In fact, if you think about it, the process of converting light into an electrical impulse is similar to the way a condenser microphone converts sound waves from a singer's voice into an electrical signal using the diaphragm. Loudspeakers then reverse the process and they convert electrical impulses back into sound. So we're going to go to the next section here. How the brain loses control of organs and systems, often misdiagnosed as hormonal imbalance. So this next section says circadian and infraradian rhythms, daily and seasonal cycles, respectively, in the body are controlled by a tiny region of the brain where the optic nerves cross and lead into the brain. About the size of a pea, the suprachiasmatic nucleus pictured on page 168. So I'm going to turn to page 168 to give you an idea of what that looks like. And if you look at this, we've talked about this on my channel before. You see how in that diagram, there's like an X. You have a line that's going down the middle of the brain, separating the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. You have both hemispheres of the brain down the middle. You have the line, and see how you see that X right here? Boom, boom. Okay. And that junction point is where the suprachiasmatic nucleus is. So let's continue to read. Page 168 of the book. If you don't have the book, go get it. As it's called, is one of the brain's primary control centers of daily and seasonal cycles. So Dr. Jack Kruse, my mentor, he's a brain surgeon, neck and spine surgeon, and he talks about how your eye is not just a camera to see, take pictures, and to video everything around you. It is actually a circadian rhythm clock. It's a mechanism. It's a mechanical structure that is also regulating every cycle in your body for every organ and organ system in your body, depending on whether it's early day, no matter what the time of day is, 24 hours a day, it's constantly measuring the light bands in your environment and then translating that into information that is then sent to your digestive system, your pulmonary system, your endocrine system, your reproductive system, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, moving on here. So most impressive of the duties, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, also known as the SCN, helps control every metabolic and growth programs in the body, including the speed of your metabolism via the leptin receptor. Chapter 5 is talking about leptins. Number 2, sleep and recycling of mitochondria through the melatonin, which is a master antioxidant in the body. And number 3, fertility through testosterone and estrogen. So unfortunately, the SCN is not working so well in people today, and all sorts of unexplained disorders show up as a result. What makes the SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus, malfunction? There's a timekeeping mechanism in the SCN that coordinates signaling throughout the body. It's a quantum signaling. What does a quantum signaling mean? It's quantum means that it's at a subatomic level, that it is signaling, because mitochondria are inside your cells. Think about that. Think about how little a cell is. You have 56 trillion of them. And inside each cell, a little organelle. An organelle is just a tiny organ. It's called the mitochondria. And those are being affected. And they're being signaled because mitochondria are your energy centers. So you can think of it as a master clock in your brain or your biorhythms, or a timer regulator for tissue-to-tissue communications. So below that, in locations in pecking order, every gene in every mammal has a circadian clock gene in front of it. through which the suprachiasmatic nucleus controls gene expression and biologic activity of cells and organs. Most important for circadian signaling, the master clock above in the suprachiasmatic nucleus has to run several milliseconds ahead of the clock that run the genes down, or else the message to increase or decrease activity of peripheral organs and tissues arrives late. This imperfect timing, which I would argue is actually perfect timing, because by definition, it knows it needs to be milliseconds, milliseconds behind in order to get there at the appropriate time to effectuate what it needs, right? So, I just lost my spot here. You see, perfection is not required. This imperfect timing confuses organs and tissues and makes them operate at reduced functionality at best, or perhaps not at all. Think of safe mode in computers. So I'm sorry, I'm going to correct myself because it says it runs several milliseconds ahead of the clocks so that it arrives in just the right time. It's perfectly timed. Okay. So here we are, 18 minutes past the hour. So I'm going to read one more section and then we're going to wrap it up. This is so beautiful because one of the things that we are noticing is that our eyes interpret light bands all the time from not only the sun, but it's also interpreting it from whatever lighting you have in your house, which starts to make you realize and recognize how important it is to not just have LED artificial light. You want to have incandescent light, which is more in sync with the natural infrared light spectrum that is going hand in hand with that of the sun. Light that comes from a fireplace, light that comes from candles and so forth, because that's a more natural form of light, which your eye now knows how to interpret that and how to make use of that in the body. So think of it as being, just as you have photosynthesis for plants, you have photosynthesis for the human body. Now, bear in mind that we have a lot of man-made things that dysregulate things, which is why we see so many more children, young adults, and elderly with a lot more medical conditions than we've ever seen before, because we have so much more LED lighting now, which is dysregulating us. And unless we know to spend time out in the sun first thing in the morning, middle of the day, the end of the day, to get natural sunlight, to not be cooped up in an environment that has purely artificial lights like LED lights, halogen lights, fluorescent lights. Fluorescent lights are so green. But that's really not the best thing for your body, because it's not just a matter of your eyes. It's also a matter of the photoreceptors that you have on every square inch of your body. Okay, so let's move on here. Now, for those of you who are wondering, well, how do we unring the bell of that damage? How do we undo that? How do we reset the body? Well, I got to tell you, the easiest way to do that is the way I do this, is with a cell activation patch, which the moment it touches my skin, it automatically turns on a third of my previously dormant stem cells from when I was conceived in my mother's womb. Turns it back on. So now I have 33% of my original master smart cells that are repairing, restoring, regenerating my body to a younger, healthier state. More on that later. You can always go to the channel, check that out. I have plenty of testimonials, case studies, as well as we review we have 90 clinical, independent, double-blind, placebo, peer-reviewed studies that were done in the US, Europe, the UK, as well as Asia. Okay, so Dr. Jack draws this analogy to help mitochondriacs grasp the concept. So we're going to this next section here, the bottom of page 36. Okay, moving on. So GPS satellites 22,000 miles above the Earth need their atomic clocks to run 38 seconds faster than the geolocation devices at ground level. Ooh, so I want to show you guys something. So if you go to, for me, to get directions to go places, I like to use Waze, or you could use Google Maps. So what this is telling us is that the satellites that are 22,000 miles up in the atmosphere, they're running 38 milliseconds faster, so that when it gives us directions here, it's on time with us here. Guess what? As above, so below. Just as we have this on the outside, 38 seconds faster, happening down here, so that when we get our instructions on how long it's going to take us to get here, and it's measuring the traffic and it's giving us the directions to go left, right, or whatever direction, the same thing is true with the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's just a few milliseconds ahead. So by the time the signal gets to whatever the organ is or organ system of the body, it's at the perfect time. Isn't that fascinating how that divine design works? I find it so intriguing. Don't you? All righty. So it says here, so it runs 38 milliseconds faster than the geolocation devices at ground level, or else the GPS app in your smartphone will be off by 10 to 100 kilometers by the time the signal reaches you. 10 to 100 kilometers, that's way off. And it's not that much time, 38 milliseconds. Holy cow. That's because gravity bends light through a principle in physics called gravitational lensing. Satellite signals included. In other words, gravity creates an extra 38 milliseconds of lag. So engineers advance the broadcast signals, timing to stay perfectly synchronized, not its trajectory, as you would try to hit a moving target with an arrow. So if you didn't advance the timing of the master clock above, devices on the ground would get confused by the lag time, much like a concert musician would in receiving directions from their conductor after a delay. So therefore, your master clock has to operate with a little lead time in order for the signal to arrive in time to be executed on schedule. I love that. Shows you how precise our body is. That's important to the physics of life because cells and mitochondria are releasing light all the time. Interesting. Our mitochondria are releasing light. They're releasing energy all the time, converting it, recapturing it, and storing it. Any synchronous delivery in that process, any leakage of light is energy wasted and communication lost. Point being, biophysical communication in the body happens at the speed of light. New paradigm. Not chemicals, old paradigm. Something to note. The point being, biophysical communications in the bodies happen at the speed of light. That's the new paradigm, the new understanding, the new way of thinking. So decentralized medicine is in recognition, realizing, understanding, comprehending that fact, not the old paradigm, which is the opposite. And electricity is no exception. Electricity is simply light oscillating at a slower frequency, but still traveling near the speed of light. In summary, when the clock genes in your peripheral organs fall behind the master clock in your SCN, the communication and operations of cells in your liver, pancreas, gut, and feet become uncoupled. They become uncoupled from each other and lose their coherence. Not a good thing. So to be coupled, that means that it's paired up. So if you have them paired up, this is good. But if they're uncoupled, that means they're broken apart. That's where the problem, the dysregulation begins in the body. Not a good thing. So when they fall out of sync, regulatory glands then can't talk to cells underneath like they used to, and tissues misbehave. Organs disobey important instructions, creating inflammation, which turns into dysfunction and then disease. Wow. So we're going to wrap it up here. We are on page 37. When we come back, we're going to return to how is this disconnection happening? And we already had the clue from the previous paragraphs that talked about when things are uncoupled, then you have dysregulation. Okay, so we'll return here on page 37 for the next time. Tune in, tap in, and turn on. And so, as you know, we're on chapter 4. I put today's date, the 18th. All right, my friends and gems, I hope you've enjoyed this time. We've been discussing the mitochondriac manifesto. And the good news is that whatever dysregulation you've had, this book is helping you understand the why, but we're also giving you a solution because you can unring the bell of the damage. You can regulate whatever's dysregulated through activation of your original blueprint. Your original mitochondria can be turned back on because your original master smart cells can be activated, 33% of them. You can turn back on the previously dormant ones, and you can actually create new ones too. Both and, not either or. Very exciting. All right, my friends and gems, Leola, I want to thank you for tuning in here. For those of you who are watching live on Facebook, make sure you like this to support this channel so that more people learn about this incredible content. As you know, I am passionate. I am obsessed with saving lives and with finding different things and modalities that can help benefit you. I was thinking I might still do a video later today talking about how I kind of have an unusual kitchen. And instead of having some of the traditional things that you have in your kitchen cabinet, I was thinking maybe I should share my kitchen cabinet and show you all the different tinctures that I have and herbs that I have there that most people probably don't have, but things to help you detox the body, things to help brighten your brain where you have more memory and focus. But the cat's meow, everything is always going to work better when you turn on and activate a third of your previously dormant stem cells from conception. And I always want to encourage you, whoever referred you to this channel, especially if they're already on the patches, get back to them. Get back to them, ask them about the patches. They'll answer any questions that you have. As always, you can always come back to this channel to learn more. Make sure you like this. You hit the notification bell. You might want to do a playlist. There is a playlist already set here on the Mitochondriac Manifesto so that you can listen to this, from page 1 all the way right now till page 37. And you can binge watch it or listen to it if you'd like. So that's always available to you. And do share this with a friend that you think would benefit from this content. Make sure you put in the comments below where you're watching from, what city, state, and country. And until we see you again, remember the notification bell will let you know when a new video is uploaded.